Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to another Supreme Commander Epic. It is custom 5v5 pro-level business this afternoon for your viewing pleasure, going down on this generated map, of which we will talk more in just a moment. First of all, let's introduce our players and our teams, starting with Team 1 up here at the top right. This will be Team 2 down here at the bottom. Going first for Team 1 at the top of the screen in Pontiff White, we have Signal Runner. He's going Aeon, opening first land. Team member number 2 to his southwest in Ferrari Red, we have Valstrax. There he is, another Aeon, opening first land. Team member number 3 over here in Regal Purple, our first Cybran of the day. Bless him, it's Mui. Mui, much more Mui. He is going first land, and team member number 4 in Burgundy Red down here, another Aeon, a little bit of a theme running here. It's, how do I say it? Is it Juraj? Juraj, probably, isn't it? Anyway, it's Juraj, he's going first land, and last but not least, in Lurid Green, just over here, we have Riri56. What happened to everybody saying Ree? That was a really annoying phase in history. Certainly if you had kids, I imagine most of you missed that. Anyway, he's going Cybran, as we've said, opening first air. Curious decision. Let's check out Team 2 now on the other side of the screen, starting at the bottom in Hallyborange Orange. We have Jamie Killer 620. Now, is his name Jamie, and he's a killer, or does he specifically only kill Jamies? That's the question that will preoccupy your mind for the rest of this, I'm sure. He's going first land, second air. Team member number 2 in Mellow Yellow. It's SPCR. I'm going to call him Spacer because it's easier to say and it sounds cooler. He's going Aeon, opening first land. Team member number 3 over in the west in Elephantine Grey. We have Trith going first land, second air. There we are in Elephantine Grey and going Aeon. Team member number 4 in Fecal Brown, it's Zayo, also going Aeon. There is a lot of Aeons in this game. Going first land, and last but not least on the north coast in Breast Cancer Awareness Pink, we have Pika Man. There he is, our first and only Seraphim of the day. No, what we're talking about, second Seraphim. Poor Jamie. I made a big deal about his name and then completely omitted the fact that he was going alienness. But anyway, yes, so Pika Man going Seraphim, opening first land and moving away from his base. So there we have it. Game quality at 93%. Top rated players. We've got two 2100s on Team 2. That's Zayo and Trith right here in the center. And it stands to reason that it'll be a similar matchup over here, I imagine. Yeah, so Mui's an 1800 and Juraj also an 1800. So the pros, a little bit off the tempo on Team 1 as opposed to Team 2. But I guess that means their Joes, of which they have none, but the Joeier end of the pro spectrum is not as far down as the literal Joes, picking up the slack on Team 2. So yeah, we've got two 1400s and a 1300 on Team 1. So an interesting mix there between the teams. The mass poop situation is as follows. You can see, well, it's got some decent little things. We've got some decent ones here. Are these wrecks, I wonder? Yeah, so wrecked factories. What's over here? Another wrecked factory. There was a 600 somewhere, or was just that zoomed out in accumulation? No, just basically wrecked factories and the like. Oh yeah, look, there's a Salem wreck. But otherwise, it's all rockage on some of these plateaus. Not a huge amount to go around. But that is a veritable ton of seaborne mass points that are there to be scoopersund. So expect ferocious naval battles, as there would be anyway, of course, because these two land masses on which the two teams are situated are separated completely by what is a very significant naval channel. So this is going to be one for the naval boys and girls out there. If you'd like a good naval battle, stay tuned. This is for you. And if you don't, well, like a good naval battle, stay tuned anyway, because it helps me, and you know what else helps me? Smashing ye old like button. So head down there, and while you're down there, tell me about your day, because comments help my algorithm too. All right, what's going on? Well, I've been waffling. We've got a scout plane out down here from Valstrax, just getting the lay of the land, of which that is what it looks like. When I say the lay of the land, he's getting the lay of that one particular portion of the harbour, but otherwise Not a great deal. There's some bomber action going somewhere. I know because I can hear it. Down here, that's probably something to do with it. This bomber has 1 kill to its name, belonging to Jamie. Looking for more. Finds himself another engineer all by its lonesome. Manages to kill that off before he follows it. Taken down by that frigate, who then switches up to some of these escorting interceptors that are still lurking in the area. What's happening down here? Generally in the bottom right, we've got 2 sets of naval yards going up. One for Riri over here, and we've got one already operational for Jamie, but a second one there that's just been completed, and a third. So he's going for naval production down here, right in the bottom right-hand corner, in a big way. What's happening on the other side of things? It's very much a similar picture. Extraordinary, actually, considering this is a generated map. It's like there's meta already pre-programmed into the way they're going to play it. Well, I say that. We've got 1 naval yard out there for Zayo, and 1 over there for Signal Runner, who's actually popped another one closer to home. So he hasn't made quite the commitment to the top left-hand corner as Jamie has to the bottom right. There is one thing somewhere shooting very consistently. I know because I can hear it, but I don't know where it is, because there is a lot of stuff on this map. So trying to get a handle on where things are going. I know there's people screaming at the computer or at their phones as they sit on the toilet, trying to get rid of that last awkward... I mean, do you know what? I'm not even going to go there. There it is. I found it. While I was thinking disgusting thoughts, I found the Trident, the one that was responsible for shooting down the bomber. Now very upset with a very specific shoal of fish and not the actual naval yard, which he's standing right beside. So that's curious and slightly annoying as it continuously wails away on our ears for no particular reason. Big old chariot full of engineers from Zayo being airdropped up towards the top left-hand corner. How many are you going to offload here? Any? There is 1 mass point to grab. He says 1 mass point, 1 engineer for you. I take these elsewhere. Still good old wreck there ready to be Scooperson. Surely you're going to drop some off there. Yeah, another one to go and grab the wreck. Makes sense. And that's a nice little wolf pack of submarines. T1 submarines for Duraj there. Just sailing along the coastline of Team 2. Picking off some T1 mexes belonging to Spacer. Spacer going to react with some of his own vessels, or at least sending some out to guard the approach in between those subs and his naval yards. Doesn't want to lose any of those. Hasn't quite got the sub numbers to counter that. So as a result, he's probably going to have to give up a few of these now. Oh dear, Jamie, get those engineers in the water ASAP. Took some fire down into the red. It's going to lose the whole transport. 1 straggling interceptor going to finish it off. Ouch. That is a painful little loss. Nice snag there for Riri 56. Well done, sir. He'll be happy with that. And those engineers were probably born for this complex of naval yards. But he didn't want to land them thanks to that Trident, perhaps. The Trident and the sub. And so he elected to get them shot down instead, which is a choice. Allowed to make it. What's happening on the eco situation? I know it's early in the game. My God, I've been talking for 8.5 minutes already. Apologies. I feel like nothing's happened yet. And I've said an awful lot. An awful lot of nothing. But anyway, there's only a 10 mass point differential in generated eco between these 2 teams so far. Trith making the transition to T3 Air. That's going to tick over any second now. And will he be the first person on the map to get access to T3 Air? Quite possibly. Who's his mirror here? It will be over on this side of things. Oh no, it's almost neck and neck. Mui about to complete T3 Air also. Showing you once again the fine margins at the upper echelons of talent in this game. Everybody pushing the build orders to the absolute limit of efficiency. Nice little counter push up this northern coastline here from Zayo. Having seen what's happened in the south to Spacer's mexes, he's returning the favour. This time it's to Valstrax. mech's just begging to be picked off. There it goes. Going to manage to bag himself a few here. So what's happening with general map control, sea-based territory? Well, it looks, for the moment at least, that bottom right is going to fall to Riri on Team 1. One naval yard left to be destroyed belonging to Jamie. And that is well and truly cooked. There it goes. Some might say overcooked. But look at that. Nearly 4 naval yards in operation. Almost all the mechs is conquered. Spacer looking to move out with a nice little contingent of subs in that direction. But he's going to run into some reinforcing units. He should hold the field there, but will have taken some damage by the time he moves into this area on the bottom right. Meanwhile, what's happening in the bottom left? It's a lot closer matchup between Zayo and Signal Runner. Signal Runner, who looks like he hasn't really been put under that much pressure so far. It's allowed him to add to his naval yards in the region. He's now got 3 hugging the coastline of this island. Going for a little bit of a drop here. This is an offensive drop. No engineers on board. The chariot will get picked off, but a little too late to prevent landfall. Actually like the inclusion of the thistles here, giving him the ability to shoot back at some of the likely potential defensive measures in the form of gunships and the like. But there's not a lot here for him to take out. Just a couple of mexes, T1 at that, and an engineer. Poor old Wally in the south. There he goes. Got lost once in his own museum. Doesn't know where he is in life. So in terms of mass killed, we're at 12k for Team 1 versus 7.8k for Team 2. So modest but noticeable advantage so far. Riri, is that a reclaim value? His mass bar's filling up nicely. Is he actually pulling in 111 mass per tick? He's the only player on triple figures so far. And he's not spending it, so he's going to be bleeding a lot of that eco through to his teammates, of which I'm sure they are very, very grateful. And now we see some air superiority fighters in play. And it's Mui who brings them to bear against some of Jamie's now truly defunct T1 interceptors. Trith responds. He's got 6 of them moving down to the bottom right hand corner. Mui has already left with his. Looks like he'd like to repay the favour and take out some of Riri's interceptors. How many subs have we got here now? Riri with 19 T1 subs, but in this particular mix 13, unlucky for some. 13 minutes gone. That time of the game where everything lines up. You just get the feeling we're not that far away from massive naval battles kicking off on what is not a particularly wide naval channel. You take a look at the reach, for instance, of that Seraphim cruiser. It doesn't have to sail very far away from its own shores to hit those naval yards belonging to Valstrax on the opponent's coast. We getting a good old read of Team 2's territory with a spy plane. I imagine both teams have some pretty decent intel right now. They've all done multiple passes if they know what's good for them. That huge collection of submarines picking off an air transport. I mean, just hover, dude. You can fly, don't get picked off with torpedoes. That is less than ideal. Jamie in the water. Is he going to have to pull his comm out? Going to start work on some torpedo launchers to try and secure the area. Is he going to lose this T2 Naval HQ. It's pretty chunky. A chunky 1400 or 14,000, sorry, HP HQ. And as such, those T1 subs are going to sail away and look for easier targets. Combined fleet there of Pika Man and Spacer, looking like they're very close to deciding to go in on Team 1's fleet. There is this horde of T1 subs to worry about. To Jamie's credit, though, he has fought back somewhat in the bottom right-hand corner. Only one naval yard of Riri's remains. Hasn't quite got the subs to finish the job. He's managed to hold on to this position down here. He's rebuilt. 3 units of build capacity, working on yet another naval yard. This does not look great, however, for Signal Runner. Signal Runner, who was looking like he was doing so well a moment ago. All of those naval yards next to the coastline of that northwestern corner island have been destroyed. And now the Naval HQ, right on the shores of his main base, looks very much under threat. 4 engineers left surrounding it. Surprised that Zao hasn't retasked those destroyers to finish that off promptly. There we go. And that's the end of Signal Runner's access to naval play. For the time being, at least, that puts the entirety of the top left-hand corner in Team 2's hands. Eco-wise, what's the situation? Well, Team 2 are up, and up comfortably by about 90 mass per tick. That is a solid advantage. And they are also up by about 9,000 mass overall. So, Valstrax bringing his navy around the headland to engage Zao. This is all Tech 1 though, and we've seen already there's a couple of destroyers in here belonging to Zao. 1 destroyer for Valstrax, excuse me. I expect this to be a comfortable hold here for Team 2. What's happening down here? That is a decent number of T1 subs that Juraj has snuck in to Spacer's naval port. He's taken down 1 of the 3 T1 naval yards and badly damaged the other 2. Might bag all 3 of them here. Running out of subs slowly. There goes another one. So that was a bit of a suicide run, but it did pay off. Jamie once again on the back foot. However, does have a couple of destroyers just over here. This one needs to stay away from that Salem. He's got barely 200 hit points left to his name. That's Salem on about 4,000 hit points. Might just be able to hold on to at least one of these naval factories. Oh wow. Look at this. Team 2 pushing right up to the main harbour area of Juraj on Team 1. This would be absolutely devastating for Team 1's chances in this game if they lose these 2 naval positions. It would mean they are locked out of the entirety of the northern half of the map, the northern half of the naval side of the map, and make it substantially less likely that they're going to be able to hold on to the bottom right side and indeed emerge victorious more generally. They seem to be holding for the time being. Their facilities are just here, of course, so reinforcement is near instant. Team Team 2's objective should be to try and take out some of these naval yards ASAP. They do have access to these Seraphim cruisers, of course. You could park them just over here and start picking away at them. As long as you keep them on the move and evade that slow muzzle velocity Aeon destroyer fire, should be okay. But looks like they're just lacking the frontline T2 destroyer contingent that would be required for them to make inroads there. As a result, they back off ever so slightly, giving Team 1 just a little bit of breathing room. Mui starting a torpedo upgrade on his commander, recognizing the threat. I guess his team are under. He is, of course, situated in the backfield here and focusing on air. Has himself a decent number of air superiority fighters in play already, 47. Let's match that up against Trith on Team 2, who's got 31. So Team 1 actually faring better in the air game. But Mui just looking at ways he might be able to assist his teammates. So he's going to get himself that devastating torpedo launcher. And probably, more likely as not, dump his comm in the harbour somewhere. Just to add a little bit more damage and persuade Team 2 to keep their distance. Lots of back and forth, though, in this bottom right-hand corner. And once again, it looks like Riri who might be on the back foot. So we've got 2, 4, 5 T1 naval yards and 1 T2. Scratch that. We now have 4 T1 naval yards as one goes down, and there are those pesky Seraphim cruisers with those long range cruise missiles, just getting the job done. Pika Man in the channel. So he's got himself T2 engineering suite and nano repair. Mui completes the torpedo launcher and is now getting himself stealth. Probably not a terrible decision. It's not an emergency right at this moment, so he doesn't need to dump his comm in here. He can get the upgrade, and then that will give him just a little bit more cover once the fighting starts. Jamie moving up on Riri. More reinforcements, however, coming in from the northwest. Where are the other naval yards? There they are. And lots of them. Look at this. 3 T2 naval facts and 3 T1. I mean, you could actually build them in here to relative safety. Admittedly, it might get a little bit bottlenecky coming in and out of here, but maybe very safe in here. It's a wonderful little harbour area this map has created on both sides, incidentally. Highly defensible. You can see Pikaman dumped a couple of naval yards in there just in case he needed to use them, but really hasn't done much with them. Torpedo launchers, or bombers, sorry. Cormorants picking off vessels, and once again it looks like the pendulum might be swinging in the opposite direction on the bottom right-hand corner, and that might be a good engage for Mui, maybe. Cybran Geminis versus those Coronas of the Aeon. That's gone very well for Team 1. Trith's Air Force absolutely brutalized. Just want to take a very quick look at how he's comparing to his opponent on the number of facilities that he's got to produce planes from. So he's got 12 T3 air factories compared to Mui's considerably less. 7. So he's got a lot more build capacity for fighter planes. But look at this! Spacer, has he been caught out? That's a significant force that Duraj has mustered. It's almost all T2. In fact, it is all T2. Spacer losing naval factories here. Zayo is going to respond and bring some of his vessels out. Can't believe the turnaround, though. It actually looks like naval supremacy will be flipping towards Team 1. And that's quite surprising. Maybe Team 2 have been macroing too hard. It's 1.1k versus 844. That's a real advantage, and yet Team 2 don't seem to be translating that advantage into numerical advantage on the battlefield. 25 minutes gone. Zayo moves in with his fleet and manages to push Juraj out just a smidge, but I don't know, that looks like a nasty quantity of vessels. So destroyers, well, that's 24 destroyers, combination of Aeon and Cybran. What's Zayo got? He's got 7, and the rest of T1. Yeah, so if this kicks off properly here, if there's a proper engage, Team 2 are not going to fare well, not in the slightest. It's just going to be a matter of how long it takes Juraj to realise how much of an advantage he's got here. And look at this, Mui has dropped engineers, Jamie has been evicted from the bottom right hand corner completely, so it's one corner pretty much to Team 2 and one corner to Team 1. Inroads are being made into this little harbour area where Jamie's comm is currently located, along with 3 naval yards. And around Team 2's harbour, they are being pushed back. Eco is counting for nothing at this very point in time. Pikaman way out in the centre, and attack pings going down on him. It looks like Team 1 have isolated his position. He needs to make a play for home immediately. Spacer also on the run here, as Juraj moves in with his destroyers. Naval factories going down. We've also got Zayo's comm. This could go very badly, very quickly for Team 2. Indeed, they need to get their comms out of the water and hope that they've bought enough room to not get immediately bombarded by the destroyers' surface cannons. Oh dear, oh dear. Spectacular batting collapse, and this is a T3 naval HQ that's about to go down. Zayo stood just underneath it. Zayo already saying GG, well played. Oh my goodness, Spacer down to 1,700 hit points. A gnat's fart away from death. More ordnance raining in all the time. Fortunately, that Omen class battleship is absorbing it. Spacer might be able to get out onto land, but if Team 1 recognise how low he is on health, God knows what could come in and pick him off. Any kind of air units for that matter. We've also got these cormorants coming in from Mui. Down goes the Omen. Zayo now drawing fire. He's already thrown out the GG. I think he's capitulated in this game. He feels like it's over, and that's a real shame for Team 2 because he's one of their top-rated players, one of the 2 2100s. Down he goes. Is Spacer going to be able to get out of there? That's the question. He's on a mere 1,100 hit points, drawing a little bit of fire as he makes his way onto land. Valstrax, no, sorry, Juraj. Valstrax is up here. Juraj following in behind the comm. Ooh, can't afford to eat too many of those, that's for sure. But I think he might just have made it to safety. But will Pikaman go down? He has got nano repair. He's at 12,500 hit points at the moment, but he's losing all of his naval power too. I cannot believe how badly this has gone for Team 2. And Team 1 have surged in generated eco. They are almost at parity now, 1.2k to 1.3k. And there goes Pikaman shortly after. Almost a 2-for-1. Team 1 must be very happy with the way this has played out so far. Things were not looking great about 10 minutes ago. Credit to Jamie, he's not been beaten yet. He was pushed right back into his harbour area, this safe port area, and is now managing to push out slightly, determined not to allow Team 1 to solidify their hold over the bottom right-hand corner, but goodness me. And now Trith is really going to have to carry and do something amazing. He's lost his fellow pro. Got a decent amount of aircraft in play, though. We saw he had the air facilities to outproduce Mui a while ago. Let's just have another look at that. I mean, they seem to be increasing exponentially. He is now up to 18 air factories. Mui, who's also significantly built out his air production, he's on 16. So very, very close in terms of air production capabilities, the two air players. But Trith has now inherited 2 extra bases, essentially. So he's pulling in 700 mass per tick. He's going to be able to funnel all of that into air production. That's going to be tough for Mui to keep up with. I wonder if he's going to get some assistance on that front from his teammates. But with the capitulation of the naval centres on Team 2 in the central harbour, the rest of those fleets from Valstrax and Juraj pushed up to the top left, and look at the wipeout. These were all under the control of Team 1 just a few moments ago. Torpedo bombers, skimmers brought in to pick off those naval yards formerly belonging to Pikaman. We mentioned them earlier. Tons and tons of engineers out, though, from Team 1. And I like what I'm seeing, actually. They're coming out and they're just building a boatload of T1 tracers, anti-aircraft guns, just trying to give their team a little bit of edge in the center of the field against what is going to be an enormous aerial onslaught now from Trith, with all of that extra eco that he's got going for him. Focusing in on these destroyers now and these cruisers. These cruisers sinking fast. In comes Mui with his air superiority fighters. Actually, there were a lot of torpedo bombers in this mix. Trith doesn't actually have that many fighters. This should be a win here for Mui, who should then be able to pick off the rest of those skimmers, I would imagine. I don't know why they call them skimmers. I'm sure those Aeon torpedoes are going just under the water like everybody else's. Interesting looking torpedo otherwise. And Trith switching up to Restorer production in a big way, looking perhaps to employ the famous Restorer Death Ball, which is so hard to deal in late game when you get the critical mass of them. Getting carriers out, says Valstrax. Obviously they are very concerned about this air situation. Jamie with still a modest little T1 presence down here, but once again finds himself pushed back. It's been a real to and fro fight down here in the bottom right. Juraj able to spare some destroyers. Brings them to bear against, or tries to bring them to bear against some mexes. Does some damage to that T3-1 in the center of that headland. How many restorers are we up to now? That is a fair old number. 47 restorers, and they are hardy beasts at 6,000 hit points a pop. Nice little attempt at a proxy base by Signal Runner. Units airdropped in, but tough to get established when you're up against a horde of gunships of that quantity, which is just growing by the minute. Up to 70 now. All of Team 1's efforts need to be focusing on anti-air, and you can see the horde of ASFs coming out from Mui now. "34 minutes gone in this game so far. And it's air versus sea. Team 1 with all of the map control, essentially holding the entire channel. And Team 2 bracketed up against the bottom left-hand corner, seemingly for the moment with no place to go. We have got Tempest under construction. Will that make a difference, I wonder, with its insane range, damage, and splash radius? Potentially. We'll have to wait and see. And here come the aircraft carriers. Again, get a critical mass of those. Make any gunship horde difficult to maneuver with. Look at this, though. This tells a story. Total mass killed, 620k for Team 1 versus 495 for Team 2. That is decent efficiency. Kill-loss ratio, 1.3 for Team 1 versus 0.65 for Team 2. That is not good at all. Remember tele-defense, all of you, he says in local chat. I wonder if someone is starting teleporter. He just started a teleporter. Oh, God. Game was going well. And then they went and spoiled it all by doing something stupid like going cyber and trying to end the game with a tele-stop. I'm not grumpy. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine with it. Two new Tempests under construction. That first one's already taken some damage. Not sure if it's happened during its production. Look at that! They were probably partially damaged already, but it's still a thing of beauty to see 3 destroyers get wiped out in one volley. They are big, shiny pieces of kit. How's the next volley gonna go? Oh! It's so beautiful. And that ought to make Team 1 stop and think for a moment. Can't allow too many of those to go online. We're starting to get shielding up. We're 37 minutes into this game. How long before we start getting some standoff tactics, some nukes, some artillery? We have some strategic missile defense in play already for Team 1. You love to see it. And there is a disruptor that's under construction. We, by the looks of things, the first to start one, unless we've also got one in production down here. SMD for Jamie, close to the beach. What's that? Oh, a nuke launcher that's under construction, so we are definitely getting to that phase in the game. Two Tempests now online. Trith moving out. Omen-class battleship in between them. And a nice quantity of blaze spam, is it? Yeah. So Space are going mass blaze to complement Trith with those Tempests. It's one of those hit and miss tactics. Sometimes it works a dream, sometimes it gets absolutely slaughtered. Jamie with an opening down here. He's managed to produce a couple of battleships, 3 in fact, and might be bagging himself the bottom right hand corner again. Extraordinary. There goes the last of the naval yards in this portion of the map for Riri. Wave of torpedo bombers out from Jamie. Hits out of that Galaxy-class battleship, just rolling out of the dock. Doesn't really get a second bombing run in play before Mui responds with his horde of ASFs. But first main contingent of blazes are going to show up on the scene, and if this naval yard goes down, is that the end? Not quite. Brand new T2 naval yard just went up in the bottom right hand corner, right up against the screen, something that Jamie might not be aware of. Yeah, might be aware of it. Got the radar signature now. T3 naval factory in the red, 3,000 hit points remaining. Just needs a couple more big shots landing on it. However, Duraj shows up with his destroyer fleet. Now that HQ is regenning. Another experimental complete. That is Tempest number 4 for Trith. The number of blazes continues to spiral. We're up to 50 now in a steady stream pushing northeasterly. Goodness me, look at the aircraft numbers. 180 air superiority fighters, 78 restorers there for Trith. Mui with 281, sorry. I have asked if there's any way if the devs could change the font so that I could read it better with my old decaying dad eyes. There goes the T3 naval yard and its accompanying T2, I think it was, for Riri. And Jamie has discovered that naval yard, which was upgraded actually to a T3, but it didn't last very long. So look at this. So Jamie now in control of the bottom right hand corner. Extraordinary. How is that disruptor coming along? Well, it's already firing. Up and running. It's getting linked ion reactors to reduce power costs on firing and improve rate of fire. And unsurprisingly, the primary target is Trith's air production facilities. They are well shielded. But for how long? Ooh, what have we got here? Stealth bombers coming in from Mui. What's he going for? There's a comm right there. It's Spacer. Or is he going for the air production facilities? It looks like he's going a little high for Spacer's comm. Flies right overhead. But that should puncture the shields. No. Swinging right, going after Trith's comm in the water. Really? Wow! Ground-fired Trith comm. And out he goes at 42 minutes on the nose. That is quite the play. Trith says typical Russian. Wow. Trith says, we can win this, just don't lose air. I mean, it was looking pretty good right up until that point. And now we've got a 1,300 and a 1,400 against an entire team on Team 1. That was a wonderful little snipe by Mui, showing you just how potent those stealth capabilities are on the Cybran planes. Solace torpedo bomber lurking up at the top as well for Signal Runner, who hasn't done an awful lot in this game. I think it's fair to say, I was about to say he won't mind me saying, but maybe he will. Maybe he doesn't want me to point that out. So it's all down to Spacer and Jamie now. Need to get those planes in. Yeah, that's a big old ball of death with those restorers, but you want to give them every helping hand you can against 300 Cybran fighters. I don't think you want to go in like that, though. You don't have the advantage just on fighter numbers. That is a bad engage. I think he thought he had more fighters than he did, or rather he thought that maybe Mui had less than him, and he doesn't. Stealth capabilities have been enabled. There is no way you are winning that fight. Ugh. And there it goes. And now surely Mui goes after the gunships. You've got to, haven't you? There's going to be flak in here, but surely that's where you go. Oh, and look at this. Riri went for a telemaser while all that was going on and took out a lot of this. I don't know if that was just down to the comm or whether that was also the disruptor, but now even if he wanted to replace his losses, he can't. He's lost his air production facilities. What a spectacular collapse. Really, this has been 2 collapses. They were doing brilliantly early on, and then somehow they completely lost. They over macroed. They lost the fleet battle in the center, and as a result got tied up on their main continent, and then Trith managed to gain the advantage with the air, and then he got himself sniped, and now this is a dire situation for Team 2. 44 minutes gone. Another teleport from Ree takes down the nuke missile launcher, didn't even get to fire it once. And I think this might be a well and truly cooked goose for Team 2. Oh, they do get a consolation prize as Riri gets picked off by that Omen-class battleship. Oh, dear. Last-ditch attack here from the Blazes, sent into the harbour area. Abstract's very, very moody and assertive for a game they're clearly winning. Gunships now! It's like, chill out, bro. We got this. There's a lot of Blazes in there still, but they're not going to finish off these naval yards, and they haven't got anything to follow through with it. That one Tempest slowly getting picked apart now. And it takes more than one Tempest to finish off a bunch of Omen-class battleships, that's for sure. Devastating though they are to hordes of closely aligned destroyers. Beautiful AR missile ships in action there from Signal Runner, who really, yeah, we just haven't seen that much of him. And that's fine. Nice kill in the backfield from Mui once again with torpedo bombers. Locates Spacer's comm, picks him off. GG's, was a fun game. Jamie actually did sterling work in the bottom right hand corner. Helped a bit by the changing situation, I think, in the mid, which really did force a lot of attention up into this region. Allowed him to push back down here against Riri. But it was a 1300 versus a, what was Riri? His 1700. So that is good play. He fared really, really well considering. What was he saying there? The snipes saved the game. Yeah, do you know what? I think it might have. I really do think it might have. But it was a combination. It would have been interesting to see if that snipe hadn't have happened. Obviously, I don't think Trith would have thrown away his fighters there the way that Spacer did against Mui. And then, of course, still would have had his gunships. Had that battle ensued over here, that would have gone very differently for Team 2. But, of course, Riri still had his comm. And those air production facilities still would have been destroyed. Arguably, you could say, well, if the gunships hadn't been eradicated, that comm wouldn't have been able to inflict that much damage. Oh, and this time Wooey tele-snipes and manages to finish off Jamie to close out the game. But it was a game that was well and truly over at that point. 47 minutes. I've sort of come to the point now where I say my minimum threshold, time threshold. I know we said that epics aren't really about time anymore, but my minimum time threshold really for an epic is the 45-minute mark, even if there are lots of toys. That's my main criteria, is the weapons and the stuff used. We had some decent amounts of experimentals, and the sheer amount of unit play in this was pretty epic. So that is why it's labelled an epic, but still, nonetheless, a shorter one. Hope you enjoyed it, though, either way. Don't forget, if you feel so inclined, the best way to assist me on my casting journey is to check out my Patreon. It's a mere $1 a month. We've got 112 premium content-only casts on there for your viewing pleasure. We've got the Discord as well, so do go and check that out. Until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.